and welcome to the conference call of Vishnu Chemicals Limited, where we shall discuss our results and developments for the quarter and half year ended September 30th, 2021. Our investor presentation has been uploaded on the stock exchanges for your ready reference. Hope you were able to access it. Let me introduce the speakers for the day. We have with us Mr. Siddharth Cherukuri, Joint Managing Director of Vishnu Chemicals Limited, and myself, Hanuman Bansali, Vice President Finance. We are going to keep our prepared remarks brief and turn straight to your questions. Vishnu Chemicals Limited is a pure-play manufacturer of high-performance specialty chemicals. Our products find applications in over 12 industries like pigments and dyes, pharmaceuticals, construction, glass, leather, and more. The company sells its products across all major continents. Moving on to the consolidated financial highlights for the second quarter and half year. The total income for the second quarter was 242 crores as compared to 182 crores for the corresponding quarter previous year, up by 32% on a Y-on-Y basis and 22% on Q-on-Q basis. For the half year, our income was 440 crores as against 335 crores in the corresponding 6 months last year, up by 31% on Y-on-Y basis. At the current run rate, we are operating at nearly 20% higher utilization compared to last financial year. The consolidated EBITDA margin for the quarter was 14.3% compared to 11% in Q2 last year, an increase of 330 basis points. The EBITDA margins for the half year were 14.2% compared to 11.7% in the corresponding 6 months last year, an improvement of 250 basis points on a year-on-year basis. The margins are a result of improved operational efficiencies and improved ability to pass the price. The PAT increased by 123% at 16.6 crores compared to 7.4 crores for the corresponding quarter previous year. For the half year, our PAT was 28 crores against 20 crores in the corresponding 6 months last year, up by 42% on a Y-on-Y basis. The net profit margin of the company in Q2 FY22 was 6.8% compared to 4% in Q2 FY21. On the balance sheet front, we are getting better and taking additional steps to improve our collections as well as focus on inventory management. Our consolidated gross fixed asset turnover ratio has improved to 1.4 times compared to 1.1 as on 31st March 2021. Both domestic and export markets continue to remain strong. Our domestic sales accounted for 46% of our business in the first half as against 44% for the same period last year. At the moment, demand from domestic as well as exports are looking very healthy, and we are seeing good number of inquiries from both the markets. Overall, the company is pleased to share that this is the best quarterly performance since inception. The company is thankful to its employees and stakeholders that helped it achieve nearly 80% of FY21's consolidated PAT in the first 6 months of the current financial year. This puts us on track to deliver robust and sustainable earnings and sales growth for the entire financial year. With this, I request Ms. Rituja to open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Sudhir Beda from Right Time Consultancy Services. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning and season's greetings to Team Vishnu. Sir, first of all, congratulations to entire team for outstanding and stupendous performance in all the fronts.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Beda ji. Good morning.
Sir, I have two questions. First, if you see when most of the chemical companies are reporting pressure on the margin, but Vishnu has reported the increase in the margin Q on Q. So what led to such an outperformance, and will that be continue in Q3 as well? So this is my first question. And the second question, so what is the outlook in respect of demand, volume growth, and margin for FY23? After this backward integration is
Thank
the
you.
command.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhir. Thank you, Mr. Sudhir, for the question. Season's greetings to you. I request Mr. Siddharth to answer the first part of the question on margin sustainability.
Hello, Mr. Sudhir. This is Siddhartha Cherukuri with you. Thank you very much for your comments. And regarding your first question, indeed, I would say these margins are sustainable. Because if you observe, our volumes have increased by over 20% on Y-on-Y basis. And also at the same time, over the last 2 years, we have developed a flexible product mix where we are using our sodium dichromate mostly into our derivative chemicals. And this has given us a lot of flexibility in terms of improving the customer base, having more clarity on what gross margins we would like to have on an annual basis. So we are taking a very conscious call on which product out of 5 products what we produce, which one to produce it in this quarter. So it's very dynamically we are making those calls and able to quickly switch to the product which is giving us a better margin. And also at the same time, we are also very positive about very confident on our backward integration, which is going to be fully operational during the quarter 4, which will further improve our EBITDA margins, especially in a weaker business cycles which may come after a few years. That so still our EBITDA margins will be quite sustainable in the coming years, not this quarter.
Great. And so what is the outlook for FY23?
Yeah. Yes. As we look forward to the next 6 months, we are optimistic that we would be able to do better than what we have achieved so far. As a company, we are not providing any guidance on the top line or the overall EBITDA, but this first 6 months, has given us a lot of learning, and taking cue from that, we are really optimistic about performing better than this in the next 6 months.
So, sir, backward integration, which is one of Kyanix project and very highly technical project. So, what would be the incremental EBITDA we can expect after the commencement of this project?
Given the current sodium carbonate market pricing, since it's going over the roof, so I mean, our ROI on the investment what we have made over the last 3 years are even better. So coming to the point on what would be the incremental EBITDA improvement, I would say around 500 basis points will be the incremental EBITDA addition.
Wow, great, sir.
Yeah.
So thanks for the opportunity.
Soda ash market pricing as well as the sulfuric acid pricing in the market. Definitely it will be 500 basis points or perhaps even more. Yeah.
Great. So thanks for the opportunity and all the best, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sudhir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investment. Please go ahead.
Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Mr. Chheda, may I request you to please speak a little louder because your volume is too low.
Is it audible now?
Much better.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity and season's greeting to the team Vishnu. Sir, couple of questions. One, first of all, I'll take the barium chemicals. So there is a marked improvement in the performance of barium chemical. If you could help us understand this change. And this 40,000 ton capacity that we have, are we running at like full utilization that we see in the first half? And do you see these kinds of margins or performance sustainable?
Hello, Pritesh, this is Siddharth with you. Talking about the capacities, right now they are operating at over 90%. Last year our average output was close to 32,000 for the whole year last year, and this year it's 10% more than that. Given our current capacity, installed capacity, and also we are expecting we made investments for over last year to increase the capacity from 40 to 60,000 tons. This is going to come online during quarter 4 of this financial year itself. And regarding the margins, the big upside for Vishnu Barium is, I would say, is the location where the plant is located. Close to the feedstock, which is the barite, which is around less than 100 kilometers from our plant, and it's the highest grade available, I would say, in the world at the moment. And also our ability to export. We have 3 major ports like Krishnapatnam, Kattupalli, and Chennai, which gives us a lot of leverage to export to over 60 countries around the world. In comparison with our peers who are mainly out of China, they are pretty much in the middle of China, where they have to move this product almost over 2,000 kilometers. So we definitely have an edge with respect to the raw material quality, the logistics, and also the product quality. And also the China Plus One strategy is helping us a lot. When we started in 2016, we were an option to the end users in Europe, but now we are the first source for them. So even the way they are looking at Vishnu Barium in terms of the primary supplier, that will definitely keep us moving and keep also the margin at this levels moving forward. So what we are looking forward to is to add more volumes, because we are seeing more demand. As of now, we are not able to cover all the, take all the orders what is coming to us. So we are asking them to defer. So we are looking forward for this new capacity to come online during quarter 4.
So is there an increase in the barium realizations, which also is swinging the numbers?
Yes. If you see on a Y-on-Y basis, our EBITDA today is around 21% EBITDA level for barium versus about 16% for the last financial year. And being very cautiously optimistic, this will sustain, but perhaps sustain in the long term, and perhaps increase in the medium term. That's how we see to it.
Okay. So looks like this 40 rupees a kg realization, you think that it will sustain in the medium term and in fact increase in the longer term?
We are seeing a slightly higher realization in the medium term, over 40 rupees, but 40 rupees will be sustained in the long term. That's what's up.
Okay. Sir, my second question is on the chrome chemical side. Yeah. So at the 70,000 ton capacity that we have shown in the presentation, so on the chrome chemical side, what kind of utilizations are you seeing on the 70,000 ton capacity? And I think this avoids the double counting, right? When we do a conversation at 70,000 ton, because there will be a lot of downstream products.
Yeah, I think I got your question. Let me answer. I think definitely this year we set a benchmark. We've already set a benchmark for the first 6 months by achieving the target, and the way things are going with respect to the order book and the production, and now that all the maintenance is through, we're going to be over 90% operating levels of that 70%, I would say, sir. 70,000.
It will be this year or
this financial year.
Okay, so 90% you are mentioning, and what it was last year then?
Last year we were operating at close to about
72%.
Okay. And is there any increase in realizations here or?
Yes.
Yes, there has been an increase in realizations in this vertical also.
Okay. What kind of increase is there?
We can't divulge the information on a vertical basis, but if I can tell you, on a blended basis, what we have seen is in chromium chemicals, there has been a price increase due to the increase in raw material prices also that we have been able to pass on to the customers. And due to the increased, freight expenses, the overall prices in across all the products that we sell have seen an uptrend.
Okay.
Yes.
So here on the chrome chemical, will soda ash price increases which you have seen during September end, should it disturb any of our numbers, or we are hedged on soda ash before that process change comes in?
That's a very good question, Pritesh. Like I said, it is a positive and a negative. Positive because the investments what we have done, I think the ROIs are looking much better. Whereas, it is a very steep increase from almost a 30-40% increase what we are seeing. And fortunately, we are covered with our, soda ash sourcing till January. And by December is when our backward integration will come fully online. So, so from using 100 kilos of soda will come down to 50 kilos of soda. Just okay. So let's say even at that level, since our finished product also is increasing, so there won't be much impact to some extent, because in terms of my budget will remain the same because I'm sourcing less compared to last year, and my finished product prices are increasing.
Okay, perfect, sir. And lastly, what is the plan of debt reduction from here on?
If you observe, Mr. Pritesh, our debt have already come down. Yes, they were at a higher level a few years ago. We were looking at 3.4 debt to equity on a consolidated basis in FY16, FY17, which has come down to 1.7 as of 31st March. And as of 30th September 2021, our debt to equity on a consolidated basis stands at about 1.5. With our improving performance.
I request if you could give the absolute debt movement if possible. So So what is the net debt now, and how do you see the net debt moving for you over the next couple of years, corresponding with the capex, whatever capex that we have planned?
Our long-term debt is close to about 90 crores, and that would be repaid in the next 3 to 4 years. That's the entire repayment schedule that we have. So that would bring down our long-term debt completely. This is related to our backward integration project, which is underway.
How about the total debt? So you had a 375 crore, if I'm not wrong, total debt at the end of FY21.
Correct.
These 375 crores, how do you see it moving over the next 2 years?
Sure, Mr. Pritesh. Overall, if you see, our debt comprises of 3 parts. One is our term loans, which I already explained. It's about 90 crores. Second is our working capital loan, which stands at about 125 crores. And then there is quasi-equity infused by the promoters of the company in the form of CRPS and unsecured loans. So that combined stands at about 110 crores. So what I'm suggesting is our term loans are already scheduled. As per the schedule, we are going to repay that in the next 3 to 4 years. That eases our overall absolute debt figures. Our short-term borrowings are looking very healthy right now. We have not seen much movement over there because of our inventory management, and once the soda ash plant also comes online, it will help us improve our overall working capital on a consolidated basis. On the quasi-equity that is infused by the promoters, that's about 110 crores. The company would start making a decision on this probably at the end of the financial year.
Okay. So basically, you don't see any major change in the working capital requirement for you over the next couple of years as you scale up the business on a capacity utilization moving in barium and some scope available in chrome, and the whole margin change which brings in, you think that the working capital should not increase for you. There is a scope for repayment only.
In the next 6 months, the working capital cycle, if it continues to, if the overall raw material cycle continues to remain in the uptrend, we might see an addition in the working capital to the tune of maximum 10 crores, but nothing more than that. But on an overall basis, we don't see this crossing close to about 129 or 130 crores by the end of this financial year.
Okay. Sir, and the capex, you didn't mention the capex. There's no capex.
Sorry?
What about
What about the capex for the next couple of years?
We have not taken any decision right now on the future capex. I think we all are busy right now to complete the capex in hand. So once our backward integration plant as well as the expansion in barium is completed, then we would sit down and take a decision on future capex and future expansion.
Perfect, sir. But what is the maintenance capex then? Is it less than depreciation, equal to depreciation?
It's equal to depreciation.
Equal to depreciation. Okay. Thank you very much, sir, and all the best to you for the future. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pritesh.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ravi Naredi from Naredi Investments. Please go ahead.
कोई मेरी कॉल आ गई. Congratulations to Vishnu team for fantastic result. Sir, my point is, what is the hedging policy as we export at 65% of our top line, and this enhance EBITDA margin and profit after tax margin possible up to which period? Up to how many future period, I mean to say.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi, for your question. So, from our company point of we have an internal business which is approved by the for managing the foreign currency. And we do that on a continuous basis. Further, being a net exporter, the company has a natural hedge against all its imports. However, we still don't leave any portions left on the dollar. Despite the hedging cost being a little high, about 4-5%, we still don't leave any portions because as a company policy, we don't like to see the now, if you ask me compared to peer countries, yes, the volatility in Indian currency is less, but still we do not like to take any chances. So our overall
is
very voice is not clear.
So could you hear my answer or should I repeat?
No, repeat. I could not able to listen anything.
Sure, no problem. As a company policy, we do not leave any portions left. We do not leave any portions on the dollars. So even though the hedging cost is on the higher side, about 4 to 5%, we don't like to leave a lot of unhedged exposure. So despite the Indian currency being less volatile compared to peer countries, we still, have a complete hedging policy against all our imports.
Okay. So in nutshell, in export or import, we are a net importer or net exporter?
Net exporter. We are a net exporter company.
Okay.
And we have a natural hedge against 100% of our imports.
Definitely. It is nice, sir. And what is this enhanced margin? Will you comment something? How is the possible in next 6 months or 1 year? This margin will be maintained or something?
You're saying margins on the EBITDA side or?
Yeah, EBITDA or net profit margin, both.
Yes, Mr. Ravi, we are very positive about it. though as a company would not like to give a guidance on absolute EBITDA or absolute PAT, but what we have been seeing is there was a principle in passing the prices to the customer, and that was earlier driven by the market. But now what we have been seeing is because of our improved operating levels and flexible product mix, we have been able to penetrate in the markets which we were not there earlier. So our overall penetration in domestic market as well as export market is quite large in the last 3-4 years. And now, after stabilizing our base, we have been able to, gain the trust of our customers. We have been able to stabilize our product mix, which helps us sell more in the markets we are already there. And that helps us, command a larger premium going forward. But having said that, right now, the euphoria that we are seeing because of abnormal rising raw material prices, to certain extent, we have been able to pass these prices to our customers, and we are already doing that. Going forward, in the next 6 months, our policy would be to pass any increasing input prices to the customers to a larger front.
Right. Because in chemical industries or export industries, there are more volatility due to freight cost and raw material cost. That's why my point is there, whether we will be able to maintain this or like this. That is my point on it.
Absolutely spot on. Freight has been discussion point in our day-to-day conversations, day-to-day meetings. But the price rise in freight has been quite abnormal. That keeps our teams busy, but there's very little that we can do about it in the longer run.
Right.
What we are doing is we are assessing all the options available to us, and based on current business scenario, we are trying to opt for best freight routes that's available for us.
Right. And can you give some idea how many more months the freight will be higher side or something? Your prediction only. Maybe right, maybe wrong.
Yeah, see, the freight has been moving because of a lot of factors. Just a statistic in front of you: the sea freight from India's largest major port, which is in Thane, to USA in October 2020 for a 20 equivalent unit was $2,200.
Right.
Today it is $10,000. This is an increase of almost 50%.
Right.
Similarly, the freight for the 20 equivalent unit to Europe 1 year ago was about $700, and today it is $7,000, an increase of about 700%. China plays an important role. China is known to be the factory of the world, and it is witnessing challenges, yet it is very hard to predict. It is a net exporting country, and Chinese exporters in the last few months have been facing problems due to power shortages. So one thing that can finally bring the prices down, that is an assumption that the one thing that can bring the prices down of freight could be a lack of export volumes from China. And with a production lead time of about 30 to 45 days from when energy rationing to factories begin, we could be seeing those effects hitting around, the time of November or December of this financial year.
Okay. Thank you. Nice commentary.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravi.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavesh Chavan from IDBI Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Congratulations on the great set of results. My question is from a little longer term perspective, that how does company plan from a next 3 to 5 year perspective? Are we looking to expand capacity or focus on further backward integration, or what could be our aim from a 5-year angle?
Couldn't get it.
Hello?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yeah, hello, Mr. Babu. This is Siddharth with you. We're seeing a very steady demand in both our verticals, both our chromium and barium verticals. In the next 5 years, from the barium point of view, we see a good demand for carbonate, and at the same time, we want to develop a flexible product mix, similarly how we have developed in our chromium vertical. In the barium family, produce three more products coming out of the black ash what we produce. Similarly, there are plans to add capacity on the chromium side and taking it up to 100,000 ton capacity, and also looking at another derivative what we are very focused on to produce is chromium metal, which goes into the superalloy industry.
Okay, sir. That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vivek Gautam from GS Investment. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, ours is a very old listed company. So my query is, ours have recently started tracking it. So are we more into a commodity play or is it a specialized chemical play? And what are the most for our business and the factors behind recent improvement in the performance, sir?
I'll start off by saying I think this is a very important narrative we want to correct. We want to make very clear we are a specialty chemical player. We are not into commodities. If you have closely looked at our industry, in both barium and chromium, we are the only producer, not just in India, but in the Southeast Asia. We are the only producers of barium and chromium chemicals. So, we have, over 30 years, we have nurtured this business. We have improved upon the quality of the products, the process, and we have mastered the whole production process. Over the last 10 years, our exports have been growing on a Y-on-Y basis. So that's where we are.
What are the moats for us, sir? Any moat? And who are the competition for us, sir?
Our main competitor, our peers are basically based out of Turkey, United States, and Russia. So the Indian market demand is close to 60,000 tons per annum, directly and also as a derivative. So we are covering around 65% of the market. Rest is coming through imports into India. There is no second supplier out of India.
Okay, sir. And how is the opportunity size and how sustainable are these top line and bottom line growth for next few years, sir?
Please repeat your question. Your voice is cracking a little.
How is the opportunity size, sir, and sustainability of margins and top line growth and bottom line growth, sir? For how long?
Thank you so much for this question. On the sustainability part, I'll just reflect on one point that what we are seeing is not just a uptrend because of what we are seeing in the larger chemical sector. It is because of the improvement in our own operations that we have, pivoted in the last few years. So from being a two-product company, like we have been saying, we have diversified our portfolio, and that gives us, more customers to cater to. That gives us more industries to cater to. That gives us more ability to mitigate larger pricing as well as currency risk globally. So with that in mind, we had started the activity a few years ago to pivot to producing more diversified products in our chromium chemicals business. And that is fructifying. In fact, that fructified in FY21 also. But because of the COVID impact, we could not see the full impact of our portfolio last year. But what we are seeing is, yes, the EBITDA margins and the PAT margins will see better momentum going forward once our backward integration project fructifies. And we are hopeful to start the trial runs for that in this quarter. And probably from November end or December, we'll start the trial runs. And that will give us a good indication of the full impact that would come from Q4 onwards.
And how are we placed regarding to the raw material sourcing, availability, and any concerns on that part if the raw material prices fluctuate a lot? And do we also source from in India, the Sukinda Valley in Odisha, the only source for the chromite, I think so?
Hi, this is Siddharth with you. Our key raw materials, which is like we mentioned, one of our key raw materials, we are going into backward integration, which is sodium carbonate. So that will reduce our dependency further. So instead of using 100 kilos, we're going to use 50 kilos of sodium carbonate from Q4. So our overall demand for will come down in terms of requirement. The chromite ore, we are majorly sourcing it from South Africa and Orissa as well. Of late, yes, there have been some challenges to find containers and import, but with our very prudent purchasing policies, we have maintained enough stock, which we are also doing. And also the mode of transport, we used to use containers. Now we have switched to break bulk because we have sizable volumes where we can afford to bring in break bulk vessels. And when it comes to coal, yeah, it has been a commodity which has been on rise since July. And now we already see that cooling down. We've been hearing the prices out of Indonesia have also started coming down. So that gives us a lot of, could also add to our margins in the coming quarters that the coal prices are very much likely to come down in the coming 2 quarters.
And sir, the freight charges, are we able to pass on to our customers directly?
Yes, we are able to pass on the freight charges, yes.
Yeah, so that's
because we are working on FOB plus tax
only, no, sir?
Yes, that's right. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Keep up the good work, and thanks for arranging this call, and please keep on repeating this every quarter, sir. This will really help us in better the rating of our company, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the feedback, but the idea for now is to do it on a half-yearly basis. The next call is planned for financial year. Anyway, we take your update into consideration.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Alisha Mahawla from Envision Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good morning, and thank you for taking my question.
Ms. Alisha Mahawla, may we request you to please increase the volume or speak a little bit louder? We cannot hear you, ma'am.
Sure. I hope this is audible.
A bit more, please.
Sure. Hi, sir. Good morning. I hope I'm audible now. So firstly, I'd just like to understand what is the capex outlay we're expecting for FY22. And if you can
sorry, madam. Alisha, we are unable to hear you.
Okay, just give me one second. Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah, better.
Okay. Sorry for that. So just wanted to understand what is the capex outlay for FY22, and just to clarify, we have only 2 projects that we're expecting will commission by end of the year. One is the backward integration soda ash plant, and the second is the increased capacity for our Bahrain. Is this correct?
That's right. Yes.
So what is the total capex we're looking to do for these 2 projects?
Yes. For the first 6 months, our outflow towards the capex projects have been about 30 crores, with 30% allocation towards the backward integration project. For the next 6 months, it's more to do with completing our existing projects, and that would be about 20 to 22 crores.
Okay, and we're not looking at taking any further debt to complete these projects?
No, in fact, I'd like to state with a lot of humility that the barium carbonate expansion, that is right now we are at 40,000 tons and we are expanding to 60,000 tons, an increment of 20,000 tons. We are taking this project, we're completing this project through internal accruals, and the entire CWIP that you see right now in barium is all allocated by our internal accruals in the subsidiary.
Okay, that's reassuring. Great. So my second question is with respect to your working capital cycle, or more specifically to your working capital, your inventory days, which is quite high at 200 to 50 ish, and it has been at this level for the last couple of years. Just wanted to understand the need for such high inventory, and maybe post the backward integration, are we expecting this number to reduce?
Our inventory at a consolidated level was 202 crores as of 30th September 2021. So, and that has, on an inventory days basis, that has reduced from 102 days as of 31st March to 83 days at the end of this quarter.
Understood. And so just one last question with respect to chromium. While you've mentioned that there are multiple sectors where our products are used, are there any one or two sectors that contribute to a major part of our revenue or demand?
I would say mainly pharmaceuticals. I would also the electroplating, mainly automobile industry, as well as pigments and dyes. These are the industries that we look up to see the how our products will flow for the quarters to come in general, how they are doing, how these end user industries are working, will help us to take a call on what to produce in the quarters to come and assess the end user demand as.
So these three would be contributing to 50-60% of our...
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay. Got it. Great, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congrats on good set of numbers. Diwali extended wishes to the entire team. The first question is in terms of demand environment. So just a while back you talked about the downstream industries where our products are being used, auto, paints, pigments. However, the demand has not been that great for these segments because of the some auto sector related issues in terms of chip shortages, raw material inflation. However, our performance in the quarter was quite good. So is it because we were able to source or we were able to supply the material from domestic market and the imports demand has come down? But since we are a domestic manufacturer, we got an advantage of the same. So just trying to understand how the demand is shaping up, given that the pricing challenges have been quite vibrant now. Thank you.
Good question, Mr. Nagraj. You see, coming to the automobile sector, application of plating is not just limited to a four-wheeler automobile. It's going into two-wheelers. When I say two-wheelers, it's going into cycles, going into bikes, as well as home decorators, like you see your daily bathroom fittings and door handles, which are plated with chromium and nickel. So the application is quite wide, and also chromic acid is also going as a wood preservative chemical. Although there is no application in India as such today, but in United States, Oceanasia, which includes Australia and New Zealand, there's a big consumption of wood preservative chemicals where chromium trioxide is going into. So demand-wise, so we will also be cautious to understand will this chip shortage will affect the overall demand, because four-wheeler market is still by far the bigger market. But fortunately, it didn't impact us in any way, and we don't see it happening in the coming quarters. Reason being, our balances is in between exports and domestic. Chromic acid almost 60% is exported, to 40% is going into domestic market. And if we see this is going to happen, that we're going to see a lesser demand, we can push this into the wood preservative sector where we are receiving more inquiries.
All right, got it. The second allied question to that was whether the imports have come down because of the freight cost being higher plus availability issues, etc. Your sense on that?
I would say to some extent, yes. But if you see the most affected, Asian exports are most affected in comparison with European exports. So our freight market is mostly linked to what Chinese are paying out of China exports. Whereas our peers who are located in Turkey and United States are not fully impacted. There have been price increases, but not as abnormal as the Asian sector export outbound. So yes, still there is an impact. There is an availability issue in Turkey and US. So they're still able to export. But also there is inflationary pressure coming out of Turkey. If you're seeing the currency depreciating a lot, inflation is at all-time high. So they're also under inflationary pressure of their raw materials and the other operating costs keep going up. So there are multiple factors too. It's not just the price, just the inflation, and we are seeing a slightly higher demand coming from the plating and superalloy sector in general. Whereas production out of China has decreased over the last few quarters.
Right. Got it. The second question is now our brownfield expansion for barium will be completed by Q4 and the backward integration by Q3. After that, you just alluded that probably on a 3 to 5 year basis on the chromium side, we may increase the capacity from say 70,000 to 100,000. For putting up any brownfield expansion after say Q4 of this financial year, normally how much time will it take for us to complete the entire project? Just to understand in terms of growth prospects, how the volume growth will pan out over the next maybe 2 to 3 years. Thank you.
Brownfield expansion, if it's planned for the similar product or higher volume, I think we can kind of come up with a proper timeline. But if it's something which I was talking about, a derivative, a new application, a new product, it's very hard to define the timeline in general because we need to stabilize the product and at the same time get approvals from the end user industry. Right now, like I said, we are quite busy with this barium carbonate brownfield expansion at our plant, and which is going to come online during Q4 of this financial year. And thereafter, like I mentioned, we are looking into other derivatives in barium as well. So, which are still under discussion stages in terms of investments and understanding the end user industry in detail, because this product, we are very excited because it's going to be an import replacement. There is no other producer for this particular, paint filler. So, but it's very hard to come up with a timeline for this new product. But yes, our discussions are at a very advanced level, and we are very motivated to make this investment in the coming.
Got it, sir. Thank you so much, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Yogesh from Arihant Capital Markets. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Yogesh.
Yeah, this is Abhishek Jain from Arihant Capital. I have 3 questions. Is there any management has any plan to go for debt-free at some point of time, or maybe a larger dividend on the card right now? Is there any dividend policy on the card going forward, because we have limited capex at this point of time? Second, if you can explain a little bit in detail about backward integration, how our realizations are much lower than the market price of soda ash at this point of time right now, and what is the process is there, and what is the reason for the differentiation? And third thing, do you see, because the Turkish lira has been continuously depreciating right now, so do you see any pricing pressure going forward, or maybe the competitive intensity?
Good morning, Mr. Abhishek. This is Hanuman here. Thank you for your question. On the dividend policy, right now we have no policy that is framed, but as a company, we are very responsible in announcing and paying dividend every year. In fact, in the last 4-5 years, we've been consistently paying dividend every year. Going forward, right now, there is no discussions around announcing the dividend policy, but we'll take your feedback positively and have a discussion on this with the management and the board as the time permits. And coming to the next question on sodium carbonate. So the decision to set up a backward integration project in sodium carbonate was fueled by cost escalation that took place in soda ash or sodium carbonate between 2012 and 2018. While the anti-dumping duty on sodium carbonate was finally removed in 2018, the prices had already gone up. And for us, it became very important to find our own consistent supply of one of the key raw materials instead of depending on vendors to fuel all our raw material supplies. That's the reason why we went into backward integration. For us, it's a process that allows us to produce sodium carbonate indigenously without procuring too many raw materials from the market. It would help us save close to about 50% of our soda ash consumption. So if you are procuring, like the example that Mr. Siddharth mentioned, if you are procuring 100 kgs from the market today, we would be procuring only about 50 to 60 kgs from the market once this plant is fully operational. So that would give us a significant benefit in terms of not just cost reduction, but also having our own consistent supply of a key and vital raw material, and be less dependable on external factors.
Yes, sir. Can you differentiate the process, because how we can generate at a much lower price relatively to the peers? If you can throw some light on the same.
It's a very unique process. There is only one company globally which is doing this right now, apart from us. So we would be the second company to set up this process, and we would be utilizing our own byproducts, and gases would be collected. The gases that would be collected from our own equipment would be used to convert into high-grade carbon dioxide, recover high-grade carbon dioxide, and use it in the process to produce our own sodium carbonate. So if today I am, say, procuring at about 25-30 rupees a kilo, I would not have to procure 100% of that from the market. I would be able to, generate close to about 50 to 60% indigenously. So that shapes my overall profitability to expand by close to about 4 to 5%. And looking at the current prices of soda ash, it could be even more than that. So that's how the process, and it's not that, we are going to adhere to the standard process of making sodium carbonate. We don't have to do that, because the process that we have implemented gives us the kind of output that we need for our chromium chemicals generation. So we do not have to adhere to the standard process of limestone or met coke in this thing.
So last question on the Turkish lira thing, if you can throw some light on, it will lead to some more pressure on the global prices, or will it make it more competitive going forward?
It's a very good question, Mr. Abhishek. There are two things that I can share, and probably that will throw us a lot of light. Turkish lira in the last 10 years have depreciated by close to 440%. In the last 1 month, it has depreciated by 9%. And Indian currency has depreciated by hardly, almost 48-50% in the last 10 years. However, from a global competitive point of view, we would have been severely impacted if we would have been restricted to one or two products. But today, we have a very good portfolio, a flexible portfolio that keeps us active in our customers, in our global customer countries. So we don't have to depend on one or two products to now, generate our overall turnover. And that the entire reason for pivoting into derivatives was not to focus on one or two industries, but to diversify our portfolio of industries. And we have been quite successful in this matter because from being dependent on one or two industries, say 7-8 years ago, today we are selling to more than 15 industries, be it soap and detergents, be it paper, ceramics, tiles, wood preservative. I'll give you a simple example. After COVID pandemic broke out, leather industry became sluggish. It took a beating to a certain extent. However, we were okay with it. We could take that, absorb it very diligently, and we moved our production line to produce more for pharmaceutical industry. So having that product mix mitigates a lot of these issues. So even if Turkish lira depreciates further, it would be competitive, but it would not take away our margins.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Yogesh.
Yeah. Congratulations for a good set of numbers. I have some queries regarding some data. Can you share the volumes for second quarter and one half for barium and chromium?
Right now, we are not providing this data. It's not a published information. But overall, on the chromium as well as barium vertical, we have produced close to at a run rate of 20% more than last year. So that's been our run rate in the first 6 months. So our overall utilization in chromium chemicals has been in the range of 85%, and in the barium chemicals in the range of 88 to 90%.
Okay, sure, sir. So it's like in the barium segment, can we touch about 90% for the full year? Since we are like 88-90%, so can we maintain this run rate going forward? 90 plus above?
90% and above. These are very minor factors. The key thing was to move from 30, we were at 75% capacity utilization last year, and we see that we've moved from 75% to almost 89% as I'm speaking to you. I think that is a significant jump. From here, it needs a lot of focus on the ground as well as technical efficiencies have to be improved substantially to reach above 90%. But as I'm speaking to you, we are also working on those fronts, and we are going to keep ourselves busy in getting better in terms of generating more volumes from both the verticals.
Sure. And one question on the gross profit margin for the quarter. So it has been quite high. I think so it was the best quarter in terms of gross profit margin, about 47%. And this is because of your cost of material consumed as a percentage of sales that has come down drastically. So in both actually chromium and barium. So any reason for it? The cost of material as a percentage of sales coming down?
Over here, it's the key factor is that we have been able to pass the increase in the prices to our customers. So that has been a process that we had started from probably Q3 of last financial year. And surely, some of our contracts with major customers, are adjusted every 3 to 6 months. And based on what's happening with raw materials, we do this a lot of time from a customer's point of view to focus on negotiated pricing. So as raw materials prices go up, we also do a lot of continuous conversation and say, okay, the prices just went up recently, but we have to increase our prices yet again, and here's why and what's happening to our costs. And we have to make this case in front of our customers and follow it up very, very responsibly. So that's the majority is what I would call the straight negotiation part in terms of pricing. While there is a market factor to it that determines the prices, but there is a raw material factor to it. And to a certain extent, we have shown that yes, our products have been able to meet the quality specifications of our customers, and we've been able to pass the prices to them.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. One last question on the debt and this finance cost. So on a quarter-on-quarter basis, your finance cost has slightly increased by 3%. So if I look at your long-term borrowing, that has come down compared to March 21. But your short-term borrowing has increased by about 5 crores. So what would be the reason for that increase in short-term borrowing? And the finance cost has also increased by about 3% quarter-on-quarter, although on a year-on-year it has declined. So if you can share some light on that.
Overall, our finance cost is, it would be very difficult to track it on a quarter-on-quarter basis. But let me be very specific over here that, we are looking at bringing down our finance cost on a year-on-year basis. So this was around 25 crores for the last financial year. We are looking at, achieving close to 23 to 24 crores this year. It can be further down, but we are still working on those factors. Our long-term borrowings, yes, you have observed it correctly. There is a small increase in our short-term borrowings, our working capital, but that is more to do with our payment and credit cycles with our raw material suppliers.
Yeah. And in the last quarter, there were some problems with, because of the China factor, there were some problems with imports in India of chromium and barium. So is the scenario similar now also in this current quarter?
We have not faced any problems related to import of chrome ore in India. In fact, we have not seen any disruption in our supply over there.
We have not seen any disruptions as such. Yes, so we have taken a very conscious call because we used to use containers to import. Now we have gone for break bulk. So we are well positioned in terms of getting the raw material on time and not hamper our production in any way.
Yes, sir, just to correct myself, what actually I meant is that there were some problems in the industry regarding import of chromium and barium chemicals as an industry at the industry level because of the China factor. So because of which the prices had increased for these chemicals. So is it similar now also in the current quarter?
I have not heard of anything of such. If there's something, please share with us. Because like I said, China is not a competitor when it comes to the global market, because whatever on the chromium vertical per se, whatever chemicals chromium chemicals produced in China are sold in China. Perhaps only 2-3% is exported. They are not our competitor outside China, I would say so. Barium, yes, they have been facing very strong headwinds and with respect to supply, and they will continue to have those challenges. That's how we see, because not just freight, because of the cost pressure and other operational issues.
Okay, sure. Thank you, sir. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. And best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sanjay Shah from KSA Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen, and greetings, season greetings to the team, Vishnu. So it was a very nice presentation and understanding about the company. So my question was regarding our business, our sales is more of an order-based or contract-based, and it is directly to customer, or we are selling it through dealers?
It's a combination of both, I would say. With some big end users, we have a very long-term understanding, which will cover about 25% of our sales in a way. And rest is on a quarter-on-quarter based contracts. And with respect to the spread, B2B versus B2C, I would say, we do have good, strong relations and establishments with indenters as well as retailers in the market, because few of the end users are not in a position to import full container. They might need it on a consignment basis, and they'll buy it as a basket from the retailers who he or she are strong in those markets. So we have planned in such a way that we've got indenters and distributors in the countries where we see demand for chromium and barium chemicals. And just to give you an idea, we are exporting to close to 83 countries today. And we have very strong relationships with the end users as well as distributors in those countries.
Oh, so how is the receivable cycles among them with
Sorry?
suppliers?
The receivable cycle is 90 days.
90 days. Okay. We do not do any bill discounting or any such.
Sorry?
We don't do any bill discounting or any measures.
We don't discount any bills at the moment. No. No export bills are discounted.
My next question was regarding our capacity new coming on stream and even backward integration what we are doing. So how do you see that panning out after that everything is on schedule, and which are the new derivatives which we are focusing on?
Right now our focus is on completing these two projects. There's no other derivative that we are focusing on right now. So our endeavor would be to complete these two projects and make them successfully operational by the fourth quarter of this financial year, so that we can see the full benefits of this going into the Q4 as well as the Q1 from next financial year.
Thank you. That's from my side. Wish you good luck, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjay. Nice talking to you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Aman Vij from Asset Investment Management. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Aman.
Yeah. My first question is on the global supply scenario. So, if my understanding is correct, in chromium segment, we are maybe the second largest in the world, maybe with, and in barium also we are among the top 4-5 players. So if you can talk about the global supply scenario as of now, and has it changed in the last 2-3 years?
I mean, just, no, I would put it this way: pre-COVID and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, there was pretty much a balance in between demand and supply. And during COVID period, yes, demand was quite sluggish because market was speculating about speculating about industry coming down. So we have seen less demand, especially during year 2020. Thereafter, in the since January 2021, there has been a good demand coming out of the West, specifically because in general the demand has been quite robust. Could be the reason that because of the stimulus being pumped by Europe and US, overall, the consumption and the demand across the sector has improved a lot, and we see this is going to continue for a while now.
Sir, I was asking more in terms of supply. So, if my understanding is correct, the Turkish player and the US player were much bigger. I'm talking about barium segment first. So, has the ranking changed, or all of the companies are doing well?
I got your point. I've just given you an idea on the overall demand. Whereas supply, we have not seen our peers adding capacity over the last year. So I would say we in India were the only suppliers we are looking who were actively investing in backward as well as forward integration over the last 3 years. So this will give us an edge over our peers who have not actually invested during this period. Whereas this additional demand, I think Vishnu Chemicals will be the front runner to cater to the demand coming out of the West, I would say, in the coming years. Sure. And whereas on the barium side, even in China, it's the same scenario. As such, we have not heard any capacity increases over the last few years. whereas out of India, like I mentioned over the call, that our new capacity is going to come online during the quarter 4, and the demand, especially in the construction in Europe, is it's booming, especially on the brick market. The tile consumption continues to go up as well as the bricks. So we see this demand will going to continue, whereas supply will be tight because of there was no addition in capacity coming out of China.
Sure, sir. That helps. The second question is on the number of products which we have as of now. If you can talk about the same in both chromium and barium segment, and what is the addition in the last 1-2 years, as well as what is the contribution from derivatives as of now?
Well, the chromium, I think it's till 2016 we were pretty much doing sodium dichromate and basic chrome sulfate. Over the last 3 years, we've added products, chromic acid, chrome oxide green, where we are consuming internally more sodium dichromate to produce this derivative. Moving forward, also we are very actively working on to produce chromium metal, which will end the value chain in the chromium chemicals, because this is chromium metal is mainly consumed in the superalloys as well as the welding industry, going into the aerospace side. So if you ask me the mix, how much of dichromate is sold as dichromate, I would say 1/3 of our production is sold as sodium dichromate, and rest 2/3 is consumed internally to produce derivatives. And this is very flexible. Depending on the end user demand, we'll be able to switch on a quarter-on-quarter basis. On the barium carbonate side, our current operating levels are over 90%, and we are planning to add 20,000 tons more barium carbonate output by quarter 4. Thereafter, like I mentioned over this call, we are looking at other barium derivatives like barium sulfate, barium chloride, barium hydroxide. We are actively working on. So to develop a similar flexible product mix, what we have done in chromium, because during a challenging business cycle, this would help the company a lot to keep up the volumes as well as the margins for the company for the board and for the company as well as the investor.
Sure, sir. The next question is on the end user segment. So, sir, 3-4 years back, we were quite dependent on, I think, leather industry and maybe even glass. And you had correctly pointed out, now the other segments like chrome, the plating, electroplating, and maybe pharma and all those things have also grown. So, what is the dependence we still have on the say leather and the glass industry as of now?
I think I would say I'll keep it very simple. It used to be more than 1/3 2 years ago. Today it's come down to 27-28%. And way we look at it is that it will be a quarter of our sales pie in a way, in terms of value. Perhaps in terms of volume, it might come down because we would like to allocate more dichromate to our other derivatives, where we have where we see a stronger order book. But we don't want to, given the way the plant is structured and operated, we cannot, or we don't want to strategically make it zero, because we have developed this market. Because yes, margin is important, but it is not the only factor which will drive the production planning and everything. So keeping this in mind, I don't think the leather, the chromium sulfate which goes into leather tanning will come down below 25% of our total sales revenue.
Sure, sir. And on the glass industry?
Glass industry is very marginal. I would say 3% of our overall sales.
Sure, sir. The final question is on on the chromium side, what is our current market share globally? and what are we targeting or aspiring in the next 2-3 years? And same, if you can talk about the barium side. If you include all derivatives, what is our market share currently, and what is our aspiration in the next, say, 3 years?
Mr. Aman, this is Hanuman here. Currently, we have 70,000 tons of capacity. Globally, a lot of research and industry reports have suggested that there is a capacity of about 700,000 tons in chromium chemicals. So right now we are at about 10% of the global market share. What we want to achieve is probably, in the next 2 to 3 years, we would like to move to not just focus on one product, but overall industry growth is in the range of 3.5 to 5% anticipated in the next 3 to 5 years. So taking that into consideration, we would also be moving in tandem and maintain our market share of about 10% globally.
Okay.
In barium chemicals, we are close to about 7% of the global market share. There are two parts. Like one is a lot of Chinese companies are also involved in manufacturing of barium chemicals, and the other suppliers being based out of Germany and India. In India, we are already one of the leading manufacturers, and thanks to the technology that we acquired in 2015, our product is at par with any other global company in the world. There are no questions on quality in our barium chemicals at all. So taking that into consideration, once we have this added capacity becoming operational, we will be moving to close to about 10% of global market share.
Yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeah.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saket Kapoor from Kapoor & Company. Please go ahead.
Yeah, namaskar sir, and thank you for the opportunity. Sir, currently sir, as you have told that domestically we are the only player present in this segment. So what are the key entry barriers that is so that we have already remained and there is no competition as such? And about this raw material mix, if you could give the key components are soda ash and chrome ore. And the chrome ore are the same, sir? These ferrochrome production chrome ores are the same, sir, which we are purchasing?
I'll answer the question on your first part. So what we've been seeing is in chromium chemicals as well as barium chemicals, we have seen a good traction so far in this financial year and the last few financial years also. But last year was a COVID impacted year, and that's why we could not see the full impact of that in our annual results. But overall, if you see the key raw materials, that is in chromium chemicals is chrome ore as well as sodium carbonate. Those are the two key raw materials that constitutes to more than 60% of our raw material expenses. And with sodium carbonate being, with our backward integration project, 55, we will be able to safeguard our interest in terms of supply as well as inflationary pressures in sodium carbonate. So majority of the capex, as we mentioned, towards this plant is already completed. It will manufacture sodium carbonate by utilizing our own gases from the equipment and byproducts, which will substantially reduce our cost vis-a-vis the cost of production from a standard procedure. And we are hoping to see that this trial run starts by the end of November and December, and start operating the plant from Q4 onwards.
So my question was that the key entry barriers, why there is no competition in this segment? And then if you could give the mix again, sir, what is the proportionate of soda ash and chrome ore in the raw materials mix?
Sure. I mean, the key entry barrier over here is only one. and that is the high capital intensive nature of the business. You cannot set up a plant with a 5,000 ton capacity or a 10,000 ton capacity because you will never be able to achieve operational efficiency. And that is where the promoters and management of our company took a decision way back in 2006 to increase our production from almost 5,000 tons per annum to 70,000 tons per annum. So that has helped us stay in the market. That has helped us scale in the market, and that is also helping us achieving better market share in other global markets. So that is a key entry barrier. If anybody wants to even think of setting up a greenfield expansion today, they would have to start from at least upwards of 50,000 or 60,000 tons if they want to achieve a EBITDA of at least 10 to 15%. Because below that, you won't be able to sustain your day-to-day expenses also. The manpower is not easily available in India. Over the years, you will have to train them, get them used to the processes, make them learn as they work on a day-to-day shifts. And that kind of manpower is not going to be repetitive. You won't find any other factory in India that has that manpower other than Vishnu's. So these are some of the advantages. I won't say that these are the things we thought out when we started out, but these are the competitive advantages that we have today vis-a-vis any other entrant who would like to set up today.
And for the chrome ore part, yes, sir.
Please. On the raw material front, we don't like to share the breakup, but just to give you an indication, as I mentioned, chrome ore and soda ash, both combined constitute to close about more than 60% of our raw material in chromium chemicals.
And in the barium part?
In barium, we don't use sodium carbonate. We use barytes. Barytes is a key raw material over there.
Sir, for the chrome ore, I was asking, are these ones which are sourced from the OMCs, the same which are used in production of ferrochromes and in the stainless steel industry?
Yeah, no, it is not the same ore because we have to further beneficiate chromite to produce a certain specification which is low on impurity. It's not a ferrochrome grade, no.
Come again, sir, I missed the last point.
I'm saying that it is not the same ore which is used for producing ferrochrome. It's a purer form of chrome where it has to be further beneficiated to reduce the impurities in the raw chromite.
Okay. So it is the same sourcing of the chrome ore, then we have to go for further beneficiation to produce.
Yes, right.
Then the process is more costlier than the beneficiation is more costlier than going through the process for ferrochrome preparation. That is what your point is.
Right.
Okay, sir. Chrome ore prices have also moved up significantly, and they have been on the higher side.
That is also. Yeah, but mainly in India, whereas coming out of South Africa, they have been quite subdued. I think, it's not impacted us because the ore prices out of South Africa have remained subdued in spite of price increases. So yes, there has been a marginal increase of prices mainly on account of price, but in India it's completely different. India, the actual prices are increased, so we are not. As of now, we are not sourcing much from OMC, mainly imported.
Okay. Major of the chrome ore are being sourced from
the policy of OMC, offering on month basis will not work for Vishnu Chemicals. That's why. Whereas when we source out of other countries, we have very long-term planning, or at least a 6 month pricing, which gives us more clarity on the budgeting and also gives more flexibility for our marketing team to actually offer the product in India and across the globe.
Not just chrome ore. Sorry.
Okay, sir. Please, sir.
Not just chrome ore. The reason why we are seeing an overall impact. Earlier we used to track chrome ore per se only to factor in our prices. But today the prices of almost every other consumable and raw material has increased. Soda ash has increased by close to about 80-90% since the beginning of 2021. Sulfuric acid has increased by more than 100% in the last 3 months. Energy consumables, you are aware of it, almost 30 to 100% across every product, every raw material that can provide energy to a plant. Caustic soda, we don't have any application for that, but the prices have for everyone to see. So yes, what we have been doing is for our customers, we have been in the initial phases we were absorbing the prices, but when it became out of control and beyond the imagination of every operational factor, we had to pass on these increases to the customers. But at the end of it, the customers are also able to absorb these prices because of the high end user demand. So a leather industry is able to buy products from us at a higher price. As an example, that is because there is a good demand for those leather products. And this is an example, but that's how the industry is right now. We have seen a very good demand across sectors globally. That is driving the demand for chromium as well as barium products that we sell.
Right. So very short point is you are telling that from South African, the imports are on a 6-month basis, and the prices are, the import parity prices are lower than what the ones which are prevailing domestically from OMC.
To a certain extent, yes. The domestic chrome ore, we never sourced it also. From the last 6 years or so, we have been consistently procuring our chrome ore from South Africa. The quality of chrome ore that we found in domestic does not meet our internal requirements, and that's the reason why it would not be a fair comparison also.
Oh, okay, sir. And lastly, sir, on the soda ash front, sir, if you could give us some color, what have been the reasons for this increase in price trend? And you are telling that there has been an 80% increase from the beginning of this calendar year?
Yeah, close to 80% since the beginning of January, since the beginning of 2021 January. Yeah.
Okay, sir. What have been the increase for this month? Are these prices revised every month for us? Or how is the math work for us? Or we have long-term contracts here also? Quarterly contracts, I think. So you have said we have done it till March or January, you told. Hello?
See, we can't share the individual prices for soda ash and all. But if you have more questions on this, we can connect separately and walk you through our business plans in terms of how we procure and give you more insights on that.
A small point on the taxation front, sir. What is our tax rate currently? If we look at the cash flow, there is in the cash flow there is a very mere amount is mentioned. So if you could clarify. There is a tax provision of only 6.50 lakhs, if I am not wrong.
If you see our overall tax rate on a standalone basis, this is one. Our overall tax rate on a standalone basis this quarter has been about 28%, and on a consolidated basis has also been about 28%. And we have moved to the new tax regime, and we feel that overall it is going to benefit the company. We have reassessed all our underlying assumptions before moving it to the new tax regime, and that is effective last financial year. As a company, we are fully tax compliant, and the reduction in taxes, if you see last 2 years, is only due to the adjustments as per the Income Tax Act.
Yes, because there is a net addition, sir. When we look at the cash flows, the below line item cash generated from operation, the income tax paid is providing us a credit of 6 lakh rupees. So that was my reason. Although you have made the provision, but actually in the cash flow there is a credit on a totality under the income tax head. So that's the reason that I've asked how are we taxed.
Yes, the cash outflow in terms of payments, of course, because of our higher overall income tax our profitability has increased, so our overall tax outflow will also increase. That's proportion to this.
But tax, there is no cash outflow, sir. There is an inflow if I take that income tax under the income tax paid head in the cash flow statement. Before that is cash generated from operation is 35 crore 58 lakhs. And when we and the line item income tax paid, there's a credit of 6 lakhs.
Standalone, or you're mentioning about?
So that's anyway, I got your point, but that is for the previous year, sir, not for the current financial year. What you're talking about is the last financial year where we got a tax.
No, sir, I'm talking about the standalone. I'm talking about the standalone cash flow statement for the half year 30th September 2021, mentioned in page number 10 of the slide of the press release to the stock exchange, wherein we find that the cash generated from operations is 35 crore 58 lakhs. And under the income tax paid line item, there's a credit of 6,50,000, and the net cash flow used from operating activities thereby increased to 35 crore 65 lakhs. So that was my reason. There has been no outflow of cash on account of income tax. There's a credit to the tune of 6,49,000.
We need to reassess the figures that you are saying. Probably I'd like to speak to you after this call. But overall, we'll definitely answer your questions on that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anurag Roonwal from Moneybee Investment Advisors. Please go ahead.
Of numbers. Just wanted a clarification. So in terms of the backward integration that is happening in the chromium segment, I wanted to know when would we see the full effect of this flowing into the P&L? And similarly, in terms of the expansion that has happened in the barium, when exactly would we see the full effect coming into P&L? When will the new capacity be optimum utilized?
Thank you, Mr. Anurag. Both the facilities are expected to be operational by Q4 of this financial year, and it would be margin accretive in the longer term. Right now, I cannot put a date to it, but once it's operational, it does not work in tranches. We will see more or less full impact from the time it's operational.
Okay, so what you're trying to say is that the ramp up won't take much of time.
No, the ramp up won't take much of a time, because as we say, we define it as the capex phase and then the trial run phase. The trial run phase would take care of most of these issues related to stabilizing, and then we would see a full ramp up once it's operational.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kaushik Dani from Satco Investment. Please go ahead.
Hi, congratulations Siddharth and team on a good set of numbers. Many of my questions have already been answered, so I'll just touch upon the incremental part. I really appreciate on thoughts as to how you have explained that how product mix and process change could improve the margins. But I think the focus on underlying always remains. So with regards to chromium and barium, first of all, are we facing any difficulties in importing some of the raw materials? That's my first question.
No, sir. I think the answer is no. We are not facing any import challenges, but there are some delays. To mitigate that, we are maintaining some higher inventory of the raw material. Because of the container issues, there have been delays. So what we have done is, instead of using containers, we are using break bulk. And since we have sizable volumes, even the cost is kind of workable for us to use a break bulk versus container. And I can tell you that on account of availability of raw materials, the plant has not even stopped for a day. And it will not happen even in the rest of this year.
And generally, what sort of inventory levels do we keep for the raw materials?
So the key raw materials, we will maintain minimum 3 months of inventory. In this scenario, probably we have gone up to 4 in order to avoid any unforeseen delays, which are, you must have heard across the industry about this. So in order to avoid that kind of situation, and the loss of production to be very expensive, therefore we have taken a conscious call to maintain slightly higher raw material inventory till this price or the supply chain chaos comes to an end.
Okay. And you said because of the new technology process, almost 50% of the soda ash requirements would come down, right?
That's right.
So typically, let's say on a like-to-like basis, if we say based on the new technology process, what could be a like-to-like cost of soda ash, basically of that process, so that we know the break-even of soda ash has come down to so and so point. What I'm trying to understand is at what particular point of time soda ash would be cheaper than the new technology process.
Let me correct you by saying this. Yes, we are going to bring down the soda ash consumption from by 50%. At the same time, we are going to eliminate usage of sulfuric acid, which is also, we have a sizable consumption, and it's a key contributor for our variable cost as well. So that will be completely eliminated. If I factor in the sulfuric acid, which you are procuring close to 30,000 tons a year, if I take that cost into consideration, then I would say the cost of soda ash manufacturing is nil, because I'm knocking out sulfuric acid, which also costs me 13 or 14 rupees a kilo in today's market. So that is technically, you would say, the cost of my soda ash production. So that is completely, if I kind of outweigh both in a way. So the cost of my internal soda ash production is nil.
Got it. So typically, assuming we are able to optimally use the new technology process, then at the peak levels also, minimum how much soda ash will in any case will have to be bought in percentage terms, or is the new process totally?
I would have to still source 50% of my requirement for next year. But on a theory basis, I mean, it would be 40% only. The requirement will be 40, but that might that we may achieve. Even the manpower, the downtime has to come down. So taking the downtime into consideration, we will be a little conservative, saying that it will come down by 50%, but ideally it should come down by 60%, which might not happen in the first year, but it might happen in the years to come. Once our team also gets hands-on with the process. But we are confident on the 50% reduction, but reducing 60%, it might take some time.
Great. So basically, chrome ore and sulfuric acid together would be what percentage roughly for the total raw material cost?
For the raw material cost, chrome ore and sulfuric acid.
Yeah.
Both of them would be close to about 50%.
Okay. Got it. And for barytes would be what percentage of the total barium?
That's a different vertical.
That's a different vertical.
Yeah. For barium chemicals vertical, I'm asking.
Yeah, I would not like to share that because that would give out undue information for our competitors.
Okay. I respect that. Okay. With regards to the logistics cost for the current quarter, how much was logistics cost as a percentage of the expenses?
On a consolidated basis, our shipping and forwarding charges this quarter was 9.6% of our total revenue.
And sequentially it was how much?
5.2%.
So 9.2 is now 9.6, right?
5.2 is 9.6. That's right.
Yeah. And this was YOY how much?
It was 6% last year.
And are we seeing any change in the dry freight rates going ahead?
It's very dynamic, Mr. Kaushik. To be honest with you, it's hard to predict.
Yeah.
we hope that it corrects for the better, not just for us but for our customers also. But
Right.
it is something to put our pulse on right now.
But I think we have we are keeping our purchase as well as marketing team informed. So I mean, whatever raw material cost increases will be passed on to the end user. So that is happening across the industry.
Right.
So we don't see that as a big challenge, but we have to keep our eyes and ears open, like how we do on what's happening with respect to our key raw materials.
So you mean to say FOB business you will be having a larger share?
I didn't get your question.
So typically, the clients will bear the logistics and the freight and forwarding costs.
That's right.
Okay, but currently major portion is borne by us only. That's how the mechanism is, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay, and you said volumes are up 20% over last year in the first 6 months. Still FY21, I believe our realizations were around 110,000 in chromium. Do we have any number for the first 6 months?
You will be able to derive that very easily, but for the first 6 months, we were close to about, we saw increment of close to about 5% on a year-on-year blended realization.
And same for barium?
For a barium, first 6 months we saw an increment of almost 15%.
Okay. I think I got it. So basically, when we say, do we have any anti-dumping duties on the finished products of corium and barium to be imported in India? Is it unviable to import?
There is no anti-dumping duty levied on chromium or barium products in India.
Okay. So broadly, we are competing on same grounds when it is regards to imports. Any end user can import this with equal ease, right?
Any end user can import with equal ease. Yes, that is an option available for every customer, not just domestically but even globally. That's been the nature of the business. The question over here is availability of the material that you want to procure, and what is the quantity that you want to procure, and are you ready to withstand the delays due to freight, shipments, and live with the uncertainty in prices. So these are the factors that always drive the decision to buy from local market or export. Not just our business, but I think it is applicable to most other businesses.
Okay, so I generally presume most of the contracts, more than 90%, let's say, would be renewed on the existing contracts. So they are pretty long-term in nature, or do we have long-term contracts?
As we mentioned earlier, most of the contracts, more than 70% of our contracts, are not long-term in nature. We negotiate the contracts with them on a quarterly basis. Of late, we have started negotiating with them on a monthly and 45 days basis also. So, and it's equally easy for us to discuss these terms with our customers once they have a complete grip on the changes in market dynamics, be it raw material prices or freight costs.
Okay. Great. See, going by the trend, I believe we are going towards healthy profitability. So is there any particular formula as to when the coupon for the preferential capital would be exercised? Any updates on that?
We have, last year it was 1%. The promoters decided to forego 6% of the total 7% preferential dividend, and the company paid 1%. Right now, that has been the status for this year.
Okay. So no further update on that. And finally, basically, are there any changes in the pledge percentage for the current quarter?
No, there are no changes right now. for this current quarter, there are no changes. But overall, the promoters have infused this capital to help the company in take the borrowings at the time of need. And going forward in the next 2 to 3 quarters, the overall pledged shares we assume would also come down.
Okay. Great. And generally, going by the industry standards, I safely assume that generally the second half is better than the first half, right?
We don't have cyclicality in our business. Overall, our business is sector agnostic, if I can put it that way.
Okay.
So we are going by what we see in our orders and in our order books. We see that the next 6 months are looking good.
Great. All the best, Hanumant, Siddharth, and the entire team. Best wishes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Kaushik.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the last question for today. I would now like to hand over the conference over to Mr. Siddharth for closing comments. Mr. Siddharth, please go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Given there are no other questions, we will end the conference call now. I want to thank all of our colleagues at Vishnu whose dedication and expertise helps to create the value for our customers and shareholders. Ensuring the safety and well-being of our people is and will continue to be the top priority for us. So I can't help but to re-emphasize my pride for our Vishnu team and what we have and will be able to accomplish for our stakeholders and investors now and going forward. And I'm going to thank all of you for your interest today. Our next conference call will be post our annual results. So if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to contact us. Once